another very important topic today. So we'll be looking at what we call, you're able to read, The topic is, it's reproductive health. It's the reason why you are here. So you must have, you are the product of reproduction. Which is basically the system that has been designated the work of procreation. We will not be talking of generations without a functional reproductive system. So what I said in the beginning is that we have these videos, so many of them on my YouTube channel on disease reversal and mitigation. And so you can access that material once you leave this space. Now, these are the concerns we need to address when we talk about the reproductive system. We may not cover all of them, but at least these are the issues that need to be covered when we talk about the reproductive system. So number one is, anytime we talk about reproductive system, we need to have intelligence in what? In family, what? Planning, okay? Who is supposed to plan the family, the man or the woman? The wife or the husband? Both. So wale wamesema both, these people are reasoning. Ni watu ambao wanajua. Family planning is not for women. It's for husband and and the husband is supposed to be in charge. So that is not a topic for today. So maternal and perinatal health. We also need to consider a very important person in the family. The woman, because of her nature and the fact that she has to carry a baby, she needs to be defended. She needs to be protected. Are we together? Hiyo mambo mumesahau. Sawa. Si kuna wale wanachapa bibi hata wakati yako na mimba. Na wako hapa. Umekunywa mapombe zako? Because you do not know how sensitive it is to carry a baby. Then we need to talk about prevention and treatment of STIs. Many people who have abused drugs end up getting sexually transmitted diseases and they die from them. These are the hard facts. Okay? You become so insensitive to your health and to your life to the extent you're not careful about the presence of these diseases. And then infertility and fertility care. Do you know alcohol can make you infertile? Are you aware? Are you aware that mera can make you infertile? Yes, and you cease to produce. And when Jesus comes, you have a very small following behind you. Watu wachache sana. Na mmoja alikufa mapema. Kwa sababu ya nini? Violence, safeguarding individuals from sexual violence, coercion, and harmful practices. Sheria ya Kenya, it's so harsh on people who defile, people who sexually abuse, others. And it doesn't care whether, you see, you might be saying, I did that under influence. Unajua, siku ya kushtakiwa, you will not be under influence. So you get a life sentence. Sometimes you get, by the time, you see, you go to jail, by the time you come out of jail, you can't marry because you are old. You don't have the energy. And you want to avoid that. Then cancers and sexual education. Sexual education is important. Najua tumekuwa tukisema ya kwamba people know themselves. people have a bit of sexual education. But the things people do, including masturbation, okay? Hiyo inaonyesha ya kwamba there's a lot we need to be taught about sexual education. Watu wengine wanaenda kwa bathroom, wanakaa sana. Ama you think we don't know? Huh? Na si mnawajua? Unashangaa, jamaa kwani anaosha watu wangapi? Sawa sawa. So this information is needed, very important. Now, let me start by asking, how many genders do you know? Or are there? Huh? How many genders are there? So it will depend whether you believe in God and you believe in creation or whether you believe other things like evolution. How many genders did God create? Who are they? Man and woman. Sawa sawa. Is there something like somebody in another gender trapped in the wrong body? Huh? So those are health problems, eh? Yeah. They are nowhere in the category of what we call genders. You're either male or female. Now, we have a problem with men wanting to become female or to become women. But you rarely find women who want to become men. What is the reason for that? Because there is nothing as, it's like men are endangered privileges they don't have. Okay, they are being denied rights, so they want to become women so that they can have privileges, okay? They can have job opportunities. But there's the problem, with a man wanting to become a woman, and we don't have women wanting to become men. You need to ask yourself why. Now, this is the position of the media sources that we have. They are saying there is no single fixed answer to how many genders exist. This is not based on the Bible. In fact, when you get into your internet, this is some of the information you're going to get. So what they're bringing confusion. Hey, people, is it difficult to differentiate between a man and a woman? Why should we have this darkness? That there is no single fixed answer to how many genders exist, as definitions vary across biological, psychological, and sociological frameworks. Major perspectives include there is those who take what we call the binary view. We have either male or female. And there are those who talk of macro view, okay? They say there could be man, there could be woman, but we also have non-binaries. So people who could be trapped in the wrong body. Maybe you are a woman trapped in the body of a man. Or you are a man trapped in the body of a woman. Now, in the US, we have a problem. So, we have a serious crisis. A boy has been accommodated among the girls when they have gone for outing. And when he is in the dormitories, he starts behaving like a boy. Yet, he declared he is a girl. Okay? And teachers have found themselves in courts. Why? Because you addressed a boy as he, when he wanted to be addressed as she. And you're taken to court, and you pay a lot of money. Those are the dirty things they want to bring us here. Okay? And led by your president, you have approved these things. So unfortunate. Those are the evils that are mentioned in Romans 1 verse 26, where people do not know whether they are men or women. Now, I want you to remember these symbols. What does this symbol represent? So what is this? Do you know where it came from? You'll find these symbols in biology books and other medical books. But what is this? Huh? What is this? What does this mean? Now, these are pagan symbols. They are pagan symbols of immorality. This is the uterus. Are we together? This is the uterus. And this symbol is not called a cross. It is called a tau. It is called a what? T-A-U. And a tau is not a cross, but it's the symbol of a god of fertility. Okay? Who is said to meet women and excite them and marry them. So, are we together? But then this is also the symbol of a uterus, but according to both pagan customs, this is the symbol of a penis. Are we together? Now, how these symbols found them into medical books, I do not know, but they are not good symbols. Anyway, that one is meant to represent the male gender. This one is the female gender. But the female gender is married to the god we call Tau. It's a Babylonian god of fertility. So. And you're going to see there are some things female wear that have the resemblance of this god of fertility. Anytime a woman wears this symbol, and you find these symbols in the earrings, in the shoes, I'll show you. They are simply saying we are married to the fertility god of Tau. And that is how women have become independent of men. Whereas this ring is supposed to be inside this one. So once they isolate themselves in this, anyway, these are pagan things. But here we have a problem also. And which problem do we have? What is the problem here? If you people know how to observe things. Huh? We are almost tending towards, there are so many things about the structure of a woman that has changed, okay? Because it should be clear, so clear, unless people have changed their diet and so many things they have changed. It should always be so clear by looking at the structure between the male and a female, okay? Between the male and a female. But equalization has started, including they wear the same clothes, and the difference is lacking to some extent. Something is cooking somewhere. Now, God gave us sex for reproduction. If you read Genesis 1:24, it says, let the earth bring forth a living creature after his kind. And I want you to underline after his kind, because human beings are supposed to bring human beings that look like them. If an organism can reproduce, then we say it is healthy. That is as far as reproduction is concerned. Now, if you're not healthy, you cannot reproduce after your own kind. So albinos, people who are dwarfs, people who have problems with their genetic structure have had challenges in reproduction. Why? And there are not many. Because anything that affects the structure ends up affecting the offspring. So that is why there are not so many dwarves in the world as compared to people who are healthy. So if you have a challenge genetically, you end up affecting your offspring. So one of the ways to confirm that you are healthy is to reproduce a healthy offspring who is able to reproduce another one and another one and another one. So that in the end, you have a lineage, a generation. And that is the happiness of every man. Hakuna mtu anataka kusikia ati ya kwamba watu wako hawakuenda mbali, wamefikia mahali. Sawa? Are we together? And then God blessed them and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply. So how could they multiply without sex? Sawa? So it is a God-given obligation to reproduce. But the problem is, now the devil has diverted the use of sex to what we call evils, perversions, sexual deviances, okay? People who have engaged in prostitution, masturbation, all sorts of perversions bringing to diseases, okay? Now, there's a Ugandan, a 37-year-old Ugandan, who has as many children as 38. 38 children, eh? So, she is the most productive woman in the world, having 38 children at only 37 years. So for her case, she doesn't need to take these children to school. The teachers need to come in. Are we together? Okay? It doesn't make sense, okay, to dress these students to go. The governments need to come in. That's all. And start the school. Now, is there a problem with this? Do you think you have the energy to bring up 38 children? Na hata mke mmoja amekushinda. Wachana na watoto. Umeshindwa kulipa mahari. Huh? So you failed even before you started, isn't it? So ikifika mambo ya bringing up children, it requires energy, it requires intelligence, it requires people who are responsible. So, children are not like any other property. This is life you need to take care of. So, otherwise, you end up having street children, people who are abusing drugs, people who have been abandoned and therefore they have taken over the life of crime. So the reason why we have high crime rates is because of children who have not been parented, who have not been taken care of. So, but in the biblical view, we are supposed to have what we call family planning. And one of the methods is, you know, people in the Bible would not have children until they had weaned the one who is currently breastfeeding. So, and if you note something, children in the Bible were weaned at the age between 5 and 7. That is when they stopped breastfeeding, 5 and 7 years. And they were big enough. For example, for Isaac, Abraham held a very great feast for Isaac when he was weaned. So the child was intelligent enough to know a feast is being prepared for him. Okay? If you look at Samuel, when he was weaned, that was the time he was taken to the priest. And imagine, when Samuel was taken to the priest would stay with this child, not to change diapers. This is a big child who is able to walk up with a mother who is carrying other things. She is carrying 3 bullocks. She's carrying other things. And they are supposed to go to a high place, a mountain. So this is a big child who is able to walk himself with a mother. Are we together? So that is the time he was weaned. Okay? So these children were weaned at the age between 5 and 7. Ni mtoto ambaye unaweza tuma mahali pale, nenda uniletee kitu. Na hivyo ndivyo wazee wa zamani walikuwa wanafanya. Wakitaka kujua mtoto anahitaji mtoto mwingine, wanamtuma, nenda uniletee ile mkwaju yangu iko huko ndani. Anaenda anatafuta, analeta. That's a big child. Lakini siku hizi wakati mama ananyonyesha unaongeza ingine, na ni wewe unafanya hivi. Alafu unaacha mama akipokea nini, akitezwa na kina mama wengine, na ni wewe. Sasa you're embarrassing your wife. Now, the primary sex organ is the brain. So we say the brain is the largest sexual organ. So everything can be controlled from the brain. There's an area responsible for sex. It's in the limbic system. Okay? It is called the amygdala. This area. And the whole of this is connected. So it forms one system responsible for pleasure. Now, we normally say that the brain is above this area to control everything that happens with your appetite. You can tame your appetite with your brain. So we normally say that mature people are controlled from the higher centers. The brain is superior. In mature people, the brain is superior to the waist. But if you find people who are controlled by the waist, whose brain is controlled by the waist, then you say those people are yet mature. Are we together? So when we come to the sexual organs, they are inferior to the brain. So this is the male reproductive system. And the male reproductive system is not entirely the reproductive system. This is also the urinary system because the urethra carries the urine. But we have the testes and the prostate here, which is attached. It's like added organs. Yeah, for the sake of reproduction. You know, reproduction is not going to last. When you go to heaven, there will be no reproduction. People will be like angels. So these organs are supposed to be used here because their time of the end is also coming. So usipostpone reproduction ukifikiria kwamba in the afterlife. Najua we have some beliefs, especially among the Muslims, ambao wanasema ya kwamba don't mind ya kwamba when you go to heaven you'll be given how many they say how many wives? Sasa utaenda huko utakauka, utashangaa sana. Okay? So if you need children, it's here. You don't have children in heaven. So we have the male reproductive system and also the female reproductive system as well. Okay? So these two systems are the ones involved in what we call reproduction. This is the entire female reproductive system, which is basically a receptacle for a baby. So it has been adapted purposely for growing a baby inside, and later the baby is supposed to be delivered. Now, there's a difference between male and female when it comes to reproduction. Their bones are also different. For example, the circumference inside the pelvis, hii sehemu ya kiuno, in a female forms a very nice circle. It is not so with men, where it forms a heart-shaped structure or contour. Sawa, are we together? This is to ensure that you have enough space for what? To contain a baby. Sawa. Now this makes the hips of ladies to be broader than men's hips. And if you check the distance for a man and woman of the same age, the distance between one hip bone to the other, it is larger in females than in male. For ladies, this area where these two bones meet, the thigh bone and the thigh bone, the angle is so wide. It is not so in men. The angle is narrow, and it's for the purposes of carrying a baby, and that is so important. Now, that hip circumference does not mature until a woman is past 20 years of age. In fact, to get a very good angle, a woman has to wait sometimes 25 years of age. Are we together? To develop this wide circumference. So this would mean it is risky for a woman to get a baby before they have enough circumference. Why? It might force them to go for C-section, okay? And that is how you miss what we call the privilege of normal delivery. That is why if you impregnate a minor, there is a legal definition of a minor. Because of the trauma and the dangers you're exposing that minor to, the sentence is always very harsh. Sasa, na labda utaelewa baadaye. So in Genesis 2:21, what does it say? The Lord caused a very deep sleep and took one of the ribs, and from the ribs he designed a woman. And the question I always ask, is there a scientific reason for God taking a rib and forming a woman? Ushaifikiria ya kwamba, is there a scientific reason? Huh? Kwa hivyo angechukua mfupa yote. So what do you think? There's a scientific and a social reason why God picked one of the ribs. Sasa. Number one, God did not take a piece of bone from the skull. Why? Because the Bible says the man is supposed to be the head. Are we together? And God did not take a bone from the leg. Why? Because you're not supposed to trample women underfoot. He took a rib or a bone from the side because the woman is not to be, is neither to be subdued, but she's not to be the king, but she's supposed to be a helper. Sasa, she's supposed to be on your side. But the other most important scientific reason is it takes 25 years of age for a rib to mature. The other thing, the rib is one of the softest bones among the other bones. So that is why you hear or you know that women are weaker than men. A rib is also malleable. It's a foldable bone. And it forms a very nice curve. And that is why women are curved, men are rugged, isn't it? Well, that is not true. Okay. When it comes to the appearance, the construction of a woman has been carefully considered. Are we together? And you need also to know that a woman was constructed or designed from a finished product. You were designed from crude material from the soil. Unrefined material from the soil. That is why men don't have to look good, isn't it? But they have to be clean. That's all. And we are going to consider other properties of the rib so that you know there was a very strong scientific reason why it was taken. Now, so what we see is once the woman had been designed, Adam calls her woman because she was taken from a man, okay? Did you know that a man can make a woman biologically, but a woman cannot make a man? Are you aware? How many reproductive chromosomes are there in a man? There are two, X and Y. What does that X stand for? That's the woman, isn't it? But what does a woman have on the other hand? Two X's, eh? So she cannot make a man. Are we together? But a man can make a woman and can make another man. So if we have men here who are complaining that huyu mke wangu huwa hanipatii wanaume, what would you tell that man? Huh? Is the wife to blame or the man to blame? Huh? So the man is responsible for making male babies. So wacha kulaumu, alafu muna agree na watu wenu ati mfukuze huyu bibi, na shida ni yako. Okay? But you know, children are a reward. Whether you get a female or a male, those are precious lives. Eh? So it doesn't mean that you have to get a what. So that female child you've got can be a blessing. Anaweza letwa wanaume. And that is how you get to get your generation of boys can come from the gap. Now, properties of a rib. Number one, the rib matures at 25 years of age. Sawa. It is foldable. And that is why we talk of a woman has a curvaceous body as opposed to a man. Then the other most important thing is it has a lot of stem cells. You know, stem cells are cells that can make any organ in your body. Are we together? We have a high concentration in the ribs. And that is why ribs are important in making blood in adults. Okay? Because they join the group of bones we call the flat bones. Flat bones are very important in adults in making what? Blood. Kwa hivyo ukiwa na shida ya damu and you want to get bone marrow to confirm if you're making blood or not, then we can go into the sternum or we can go into the what? One of the flat bones in the head. So very important. Then they have a wide base and curved, and that is why women have broad hips. It is also the first bone to receive the breath of life. You know, ribs, and cage, the lungs. Eh? So when God breathed the breath of life, it was the first bone to receive that breath of life from God. Then we also know they have a high regenerative capacity. So ukipata fracture ya rib, hakuna mtu atatengeneza hiyo. You're told go home. It will heal itself. Sasa, ameshaiona mtu amewekwa cast ya kifua? No, you don't. Sasa, they heal themselves. Eh? And unless you're smoking or taking alcohol, it heals very fast. And then we know it is the only bone in the human body that resembles that of a man. So there are no other bones that are alike in male and female apart from the rib bones. Are we together? So your skull is different from that of a woman. Your bones for the legs, for the arms are different. But when it comes to the ribs, you have the same structure, okay? Including the number of ribs. Ama ulikuwa unafikiria kwa sababu moja ilitolewa, zilibaki 23. Huh? Ndivyo ulikuwa unafikiria? We have the equal number of ribs. They are also sensitive to hormones. And then the advantageous location. Eh? Good. Now, in men, there is one hormone that determines what we call defines their masculinity. Eh? So if you have less of this hormone, you tend to become a woman. Okay? It is called testosterone. So what is the function of testosterone? It is responsible for the changes you find in men at puberty. So the deepening of the voice, the growth of the beards and other bodily hairs. So, the formation of muscles. Are we together? Your build, your structure. Now, that hormone is responsible for it. There are other hormones that work together with testosterone. Some of them have not been named, but this is the major one. So, including your bone density, also important for the manufacture of healthy blood in men. It is also the hormone responsible for what we call the sexual drive. And this hormone is affected by drugs, alcohol, cut, because it goes down when you're using those drugs. So when you have people who have challenges with what we call erection, it is because the levels of testosterone have been deprived. Okay? It also determines sperm quality and sperm quantity. There are people who have challenges with fertility, especially among the alcoholics, simply because the quality of sperms is poor and the quantity is too low. Because you have to have more than 40 million sperm cells to be able to fertilize. So you can compromise that quality and quantity because of low testosterone. Are we together? Yes. You can be shooting blanks, empty bullets. Then you have mental energy, intelligence. Your ability to reason depends on how much testosterone you have. So if you deprive your testosterone, meaning you are going to have very poor judgment. Okay? Some men who have very slow reaction time. Okay? Or they are not understanding things very fast. Then you have an issue to do with testosterone. Okay? In order to have enough testosterone, you have to have an element we call zinc, a lot of it. Because we also know that your prostate needs a lot of zinc. The other organ in the body of a man that competes for zinc is brain. So this would mean a man who has frequent sex loses intelligence. Because you deprive the stores of zinc in yourself at the expense of your brain. The brain. Kwa hivyo mnapoongea na watu, assess if they are reasonable. You don't have to ask them, how many partners do you have? No. Just reason with them. Angalia kama they are answering questions very fast. So if you have a challenge with that, you have lost a lot of zinc. Good. And then we have estrogen, a very important hormone, but you also have progesterone, works together with estrogen. It doesn't mean men do not have estrogen. They have. And it doesn't mean women do not have testosterone. They have. But the levels are lower when compared. Okay, so women have more estrogen than men. And because of the estrogen, it gives them their body structure. Estrogen is also responsible for deposition of fat. It is the one that determines where fat is supposed to be deposited. And for estrogen, it will command deposition of fat in the breasts, okay, on the butt. But it is not estrogen that is responsible for the pot bellies. Now that is a problem with diet. Are we together? That's all. So we will say, kwa sababu mkeo akona pot belly ni estrogen. Hapana. Angalia mambo ya diet. Women are not supposed to have pot bellies. Responsible for the menstrual cycle, very important for a stable menstrual cycle, fertility, okay, pregnancy, very important. All those things, including bone density. And that is why when women are approaching menopause, they tend to have issues to do with bones. bone pain, osteoporosis, okay? And because of decrease of the levels of estrogen. Heart health, brain, mood, okay? Intelligence, all those. And that is estrogen. But you also need to know that there's a hormone called progesterone, also very important. It makes the woman tender as well. It improves the mood of a woman. It is a relaxer. It is called the happy hormone in women. And increases the libido in women. The problem we have is that most fertility, most family planning methods, they have a lot of progesterone. And if they have a lot of progesterone, what does it mean? It makes the woman highly excitable. So it's a woman whom you cannot sustain. And that progesterone is not working good for men. Because it would mean you will be losing a lot of energy. Sometimes daily or 3 times weekly. And that's a lot of energy because of a woman who has been stimulated by that progesterone. Eh? So that is a challenge for you. So you need to decide wisely what kind of family planning method your wife is going to use. Otherwise, she can go for a method that will end up draining you. Na mwisho unakufa, unamwacha hapo. Sasa. Kwa pamoja. So you need to be very careful. Now there's a Bible verse that says that flee fornication, every sin that a man doeth is without the body. But whoever committed fornication does what? That is why we have one man, one wife. And the reason is here. So that you do not die early. Are we together? Do not take the issue of reproduction as something to be slighted. It takes a lot of energy, even to hook up. You see all that planning, all that investment, okay? All that money you pay in dowry. It was meant to emphasize that this thing should only happen once in a lifetime, so that you stop wasting energy elsewhere. But the other problem you get is that you might get very bad diseases as a result of adultery, okay? And these are some of those diseases. And so many men have died from, men and women have died from these diseases. But the other problem is wasting of energy. For example, in Proverbs 6:32, we are told, but whosoever committed adultery with a woman, does he have understanding? Huh? Do you think you're intelligent when you're committing adultery? Why do you think you're not intelligent? Because one, you are risking your life. You are physically harming yourself. And I told you the other time, survival, it's about conserving energy. Conserving energy and being intelligent. He lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroys his own soul. And there are so many examples of men who have died because of women, including Samson. He was a very strong man. You know how he died? Huh? Yes. So marriage is honorable in all. Respect your marriage, respect other people's marriages. So. And people who are reasonable in a very civilized community, they need to know that if you see a lady walking by or another man walking by, they belong to a family. The basic common sense should tell you that. So. And if you wanted to marry then you do not marry anyone, isn't it? You take time, you plan, you consider where this person is coming from. Okay? Yeah, basic intelligence should tell you that you need to plan so that we can have discipline and order. We are not supposed to be like animals. There's a very big difference between human beings and yes, among the community of animals, there is nobody's wife. Or is there? Huh? Eh. So kidovu kinakamata kidovu kingine bila kujali whether this is somebody's or daughter or whatever. Sasa, lakini for rational human beings, we need to be very careful. So what I worry most is wasting energy. And sometimes men have gone so low. Gone so low. You are about to lose energy, and yet you are begging. Are we together? It should not happen like this. If you only understand about sexuality and what it means, you will not do certain things. When it comes to the relationship between a man and a woman, it's like worship. You are surrendering your personality, your energy to someone else. And when it comes to this, it should only be your wife or your husband. Okay? Now, let me tell you something concerning how sperms are manufactured in the human body. Now, ejaculation leads to huge losses of energy in form of the seed or the sperm. The sperm contains not less than 92 mineral ions, more than 20 amino acids, more than 13 vitamins. We have many fatty acids, we have proteins, we have sugars, we have hormones, we have enzymes, we have stem cells. In other words, we are talking of a complete package of energy. It is a loaded and locked molecule of energy. It contains so much energy to this extent. What we call the semen, which contains the prostate fluid, it takes energy and time, okay? And there's a lot of resources mobilized from all the body because the sperm will make the bones, will make the eyes, will make the kidney, will make the liver, it will make the nails, it will make the skin, it will make the heart. So we are talking of a molecule which has energy in the magnitude of a nuclear reactor. Are we together? This is the thing you are wasting. Huh? Now listen. Spermatogenesis takes between 64 to 74 days plus 14 more days for maturation in the epididymis, meaning you are taking up to 80 days to pack this energy. Hii ndio unatupa ovyo. Na wakati unatupa, you are paying for that loss. And then unasimamisha watu hapo unawahutubia. Watu wanafikiria uko na akili. That is shameful. Up to 80 days. Remember, a single ejaculation typically releases between 40 million to 750 million sperms. Unaachilia the whole of Africa. Ovyo. Hey, wazee. This ejaculate contains as much energy as the energy contained in a pint of blood. Are we together? Unaona ile kitu unatupa? The energy contained in a single ejaculate is equivalent to the energy contained in a pint of blood. Na mtu akipatiana damu huwa anatoka huko akiwa anaruka. Akisema nitakimbia wapi? Si anatoka akiwa na nguvu You are fainting after donating blood. So this is the energy you want to lose. So physical agility declines, the metabolism slows down due to depletion. Now, that is why you lose energy. Everything slows down. because you know testosterone is responsible for mobilization of steroids. Whatever gives you muscle, bone mass, energy is what you have lost. And that is why you might find castrated bulls gain energy and gain weight. Sasa. So that is the energy you want to save. Now, if it takes about 70 days to manufacture all that energy, how many times should you have sex in a week? Huh? If it is taking you up to 70 days, what should be the frequency of sex? Yes, at least once monthly. I'm after 2 months, once after 2 months. We endelea kusema hai, lakini tutakutana hospitali ukiwa huna nguvu. Okay? By the way, among the men of God in the Bible, they had no interest in sex. They knew sex was for reproduction. That is why when Adam was given a brand new wife, she never exposed her. Hiyo mentality, wewe ungekuwa nayo on the wedding day, hiyo hakuwa nayo. Okay? In fact, yule mtu alikuja kuanika nguo, kuwafunua nguo ni shetani. Sasa. Lakini for them, they were just continuing. Sasa. Huh? And that is the mentality of men who want to preserve energy. Sasa. So if you read Proverbs 7:17, this is the language of a prostitute. This is a dangerous woman. Sasa. Now we are told after she has made her bed, she says, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Do you know how much energy you are going to lose until morning? Na ukitoka unatoka kama shujaa na mtu amelipa. Na huna adabu kusalimia watu. Hi. Good morning. Na umepoteza nguvu. For she hath cast down many wounded. Skiza. Many who? Is it one or two? Many strong men have been slain by her. So you see how it starts. A lot of attraction. But eventually wounding, destruction. So I'll tell you something. That the uterus and the reproductive system is situated between the rectum, which is a receptacle for feces, and the bladder. So you wonder why God could place the reproductive system between two excretory organs. Why? Why? You know, I want you to reason. That's how. Niangalie tu hivi. Why was it placed between two excretory organs? Hapo sio pahali pa kushinda, sawa? Uko pamoja? You should only come here when it's very necessary. When you can't do. So, this is a receptacle for waste. It is unfortunate that any woman should expose an area that carries waste. It will be unfortunate. So, and that is why nakedness is associated with shame. It should be covered. There are two organs in the body. That the Bible says different things at different times. That the head should be exposed, but the nakedness should be covered. Now people are doing the opposite. You are uncovering what is supposed to be what? Covered. Now that is wrong. Anyway, let's move on. Sasa nyinyi munaniambia, you know people. You know people. Now tell me, who is this? Who is that? Wonder. Oh, there are guys who have been. And who is this? Ah, good. Wonderful. Okay, what caused the death of these two gentlemen? Huh? This prostate cancer. It was something to do with depletion of testosterone in the reproductive system, isn't it? Okay, leading to prostate cancer. Thank you. How many know this guy? Okay, so he is the only politician who has declared his condition. He's a prostate cancer survivor. And by the way, prostate cancer is among the leading causes of death in Kenya. Okay, and even in Africa. That's after lung cancer and after breast cancer. Okay. So I need you to know something here. By the way, I wanted to say that the health of your prostate will also depend or be determined by your frequency of sex. The more sex you have, the more you're destroying your prostate, and eventually, either you can have an enlarged prostate, or sometimes it changes and becomes cancerous. Are we together? So don't think sex is a good thing. It is not only depriving you of energy, but it's also predisposing you to what? Okay? And I told you it competes with the brain for zinc. So you're also losing intelligence when you increase your frequency of sex. Are we together? So usiulize mbona sikuweza kufanya hii course vizuri. Nilipata supplementary. Challenges zilikuwa wapi? You depleted your zinc levels. Now, let me say something. Do you know defilement in Kenya is punishable by law? And I think you need to be very careful because sometimes you do things and eventually you come to regret. This is what we call adult on minor sex. Now, the age of the victim, a child is legally defined as any person under the age of. So if you have sex with a girl who is 17 years, and 364 days, is she a minor or an adult? So the court considers the time of the act. She was 1 day to what? Are we together? So consent by the minor is the material. It doesn't matter whether it was consensual. The court doesn't care. Wanasema wewe ndiye unajua. Sawa. So material is not a legal defense. Proof required. The prosecution must prove 3 core elements beyond reasonable doubt. And the first proof is the proof of penetration. The words are very specific here. It doesn't say, it is not specific. It doesn't say penile penetration. It says penetration. Meaning if you put your finger, that is also what? Then the victim's age and also the positive identification of the accused. So victim anapaswa kusema tu ni wewe. Na nimeona wanaume wengine wamejipata katika shida. Alikuwa anacheza tu hivi. Mtu anasema tu, you touched my breasts. Na ulikuwa unapita. And people have landed in progress. So a child aged 11 years or less, you're going to have life imprisonment. Child aged between 12 to 15 years, at least 20 years, 16 to 18 years, 15 years in prison. Then, please be careful of what you call attempted defilement. This one doesn't need to be proved. So mtu anahitaji tu kudai ya kwamba you touch them or you pass close to them and you rub them. That is attempted what? It carries a sentence of not less than 10 years. Okay? So just a few months ago, this guy from Nyeri got life imprisonment. Why? Nicholas Julius Mashari, what did he do? He fired and killed. Okay. Sometimes people are framed up. It may not be confirmed. But for example, in this case, only in October 2025, for 15 years he has been going through trial until the High Court set him free, where he was to serve a jail sentence of 100 years, okay, for defiling minors. Now, before he was acquitted, it took 15 years, okay? So you see now the burden of, or the hassle of carrying. Do you know how much you can use if you're running with court cases for 15 years, even if you're acquitted? That's time lost, energy lost, money lost, all those things. So it's good to be careful, intelligent, especially when you are, that is why drugs make you ignore some of these basic rules. And that is why we need to overcome our drug addiction so that we can be sober. We need to consider what we call physical and emotional maturity when we are choosing mates. Pick somebody who is mature. The Bible talks about certain parameters of maturity, including men marrying when they were mature. And maturity of the brain by the time you marry is important because it helps you, it gives you what we call self-control. The problem with starting things early is because the brain is not mature and therefore making decisions becomes also poor. Do you know how long it takes for your brain to mature? 30 years, 30 years. And for certain decisions as serious as reproduction, that is why they need to wait for that time, when your brain is mature. We also have indicators of physical maturity, especially in ladies, those people you want to marry. And these are some of them, okay? A stable menstrual cycle, eruption of teeth. Do not marry somebody who does not have all the teeth. Na hiyo mmekosea sana. Unadai ya kwamba umeoa na mtu ambaye uko naye ako na 28 teeth. Okay? Tuko pamoja. Hiyo sasa, you don't need rocket science kuhesabu men. Because if all the teeth are not there, that means the person you're marrying is not mature physically. So atakuja kukusumbua. Sasa. So usiruhusu meno imee kwako. And you're also supposed to have all the teeth. So usitake kuhesabu meno ya wengine na yako hujahesabu. Then you also have the broadening of the hips for the reasons I told you. By the mature ladies have two hairlines. Yeah, you have to see the first hairline in the second. Otherwise, kama unaona it is a single hairline, that person is not mature. Do you know that? Did you know that, by the way? Ulikuwa unajua hivi? Mature ladies have two hairlines. Kuna ingine ambao ni light and there is another one. Na sijasema sasa muanze kuangalia. Sawa. Are we together? And of course, another very important thing is the emergence of what we call breast ptosis. Do not marry a woman whose breasts are stiff. She's not mature. They must attain the looseness. Okay? Uko pamoja? And that is how we assess maturity. Kuna wanaume wako na mutakuwa na daughters. Ambao mnataka kuoza. The breasts are still stiff. That's a immature woman. You need to know these things. These are the facts of life. Sasa. And then we have the change of color in different parts of the body, including sasa. Unaona blackening hapa kwa knees. Lakini kama ako mororo kila mahali, sasa it's a fair complexion of wewe. So unajua ukienda ukishtakiwa, utaulizwa kama unajua haya mambo. Because you exposed that lady, you found there was no darkening of skin, and you continue. Sasa, these are signs of what? Maturity. Sasa. We also have indicators of emotional maturity, and one of the indicators of maturity in a woman is the ability to control herself, including what we call lust restraint. So mwanamke ambaye they are easy going, there's no maturity, emotional maturity. Then they have to have taste restraint. Unajua kuna wale unampeleka kwa mkahawa anataka vitu vyote tam. Yeah? So if there is no such restraint, there's a problem with emotional what? If they do not have the ability to withstand pain, they are not emotionally mature. So those are the women, if you go into the labor room, unaona wanalia wanatoa machozi. Ukiona mwanamke anatoa machozi in labor, that person is not mature. Okay, giving birth does not come with tears. There is no tears in giving birth. Yes, they can shout, but they are not supposed to. Tuko pamoja. So, na hawa watu, when you are doing the courtship, whatever, when you will assess their level of withstanding pain. Sasa, wakati mwingine amefinywa na kitu ama amejikua, amesema hata sitaenda huko tulikuwa tunaenda, wacha nirudi nyumbani. Somebody who cannot withstand pain. So you remember this lady? Who was she? Joyce? Okay. What did she die of? Ovarian cancer. It's a problem with the reproductive system. Do you know this lady? Jambiko Koikai. What caused her death? Endometriosis. Yeah, she had a very big problem with endometriosis. And endometriosis, let me warn you, men, especially those who are married, don't touch your wife when they are in their menstrual period. In fact, we say you should know about that cycle, because no sex should be there the day before the cycle and 2 days after the cycle. Na ninasema hivyo nikijua kuna wanaume hapa huwa wanaharakisha. Huwa wanauliza imeisha? Nimesema 2 days after the cycle, so that we avoid endometriosis. Okay? So that we also avoid endometrial cancer and other issues that come with. And there's a lot of science. I may not have the time to explain, but please keep note of that. It's very important. Ladies are very sensitive. You remember this lady? What's her name? Okay, what did she die of? Ovarian cancer in 2011. A condition to do with her ovaries, a cancer of the ovaries, reproductive system. So, I needed to tell you that so that you know there are so many issues in the reproductive system. They can be prevented, but because we do not have the knowledge, you're going to put your wife into problems, including what? Including yourself. Okay? Sasa hii lazima iwalemee. Tell me, who are these two persons? Hey, who is that? Hey. Come on, how did you know that? Wanda. Sasa unaposema hivyo, kuna jamaa kwa hapo nyuma yako anashangaa. What was this? Huh? Okay, and who is this? Wow. Dodi Al Fayed. Sasa, I think I need to ask you another question before I give you the story about this, because, and I'll show you something here. Now you have told me, you know what happened, isn't it? I want you to look at this car. What model of this car is it? Mercedes-Benz. Exactly, in this car as well. Now, you heard that this was a natural road accident. That is what you heard, isn't it? Anything that is inconsistent in this accident, it can also be an investigator. Something that is inconsistent in this picture. This is said was a natural road accident. It is said that this vehicle hit a pillar. It hit a wall on a major highway. Anything inconsistent or anything that is suspicious or alarming. Okay, the pillar we may not see it because I've only cut. Okay, I only want to show you the car so that you tell me whether you can be an investigator. Tell me one thing that is distance between them. So what about the axles? Yeah, somebody has talked about the roof. Yes, what about the roof? But something I wanted you to note, that seems obvious. The wheels are intact, isn't it? Okay, both the front and the wheels are intact, yet we have a destroyed middle part. Where does that happen in natural real accidents? Maybe in movies, Okay. Now, concerning Princess Diana, and this is her funeral in 1997. So, there was an issue to do with her boyfriend, Dodi Al Fayed. And Dodi Al Fayed is a descendant of Arabs we call the Moors, the Moor Arabs. Now, these were the owners of the riches, and Europe is said to have, even the royalty, the kingship of UK is said to have attained its riches from those Moors. Europe was initially poor, apart from the fact that it has obtained its riches illegally from Africa. Now, the Moors were the owners of kingdoms in the past. But there's a mistake Princess Diana did. You know which mistake is that cost her life? She believed that royalty belongs to the Moors. And it's like she's a free thinker and she wants to attach herself with a descendant of a Moor. But this hurt the UK monarchy, in that the UK monarchy is a guarded, clean set of houses, okay? And the current monarchy belongs to the house we call the House of Windsor. And they have certain secrets that no one is supposed to expose the monarchy, and you are not supposed to entertain members that do not belong to the royalty. So Diana made that mistake. One, reminding the monarchy that whatever you have once belonged to the Moors, and now I have one of the Moors' descendants as a boyfriend. And that one cost her life. Remember that Fayed was one of the richest guys, okay? And they were traveling in an almost armored car. This is not the kind of car any other person can. These are senior. She was a princess and this guy was also rich. So in terms of their own security and safety, they were very careful, okay? But how this car was destroyed and whatever happened and whether there was a setup, when it hit the pillar, something destroyed the vehicle even further. So as to kill both Princess Diana and Lord Fayed at the same time. They wanted to ensure that these people completely die, okay? So that they do not tarnish the United Kingdom monarchy. So you see how now a reproductive whatever, yeah? A reproductive, the descendants can, the people are guarding their seed, eh? So that it's not polluted. So that is why she had to die. Anyway, lastly, you have ever heard of LGBTQ? It is called LGBT movement, LGBTQ plus. Now, the plus is the I and A, which is intersexual and asexual controversy. Now, LGBTQ is defined, or it is said to have started in the 1980s, but today it has been accepted. And these days you have a controversy. Anytime you're interacting with anybody, you need to know whose orientation or what orientation they belong to. Okay? The power is gone. So you need to ask. And why is it going well? Now we have very important things to discuss. Okay? So you need to ask whether people are straight or they have another different orientation. This should not have been the case if people are identified in terms of male and female. Are we together? So the issue is the issue of whether you are straight or not came because of this movement. And therefore, I could have showed you, if that would have been allowed, the Secretary of Treasury in the US has been married to, his name is Scott Bessent. Okay? This is a gentleman. So he says he is married to the husband, a gentleman called John Freeman. So that is, so meaning he is the wife, isn't he? Okay? And there's a problem with that. But having a senior guy in the US government being a declared gay man, that tells you where we are in terms of accepting these things are in the society. Okay? And because this is happening, we need to be very careful, especially anytime people are together. We have a lot of dirty things happening in the prisons, and because of this, men have been abused, innocent men have been abused in prisons because of these sexual perversions. Okay? So you need to be careful, especially people who are inviting other people to share beds. Unajua unaweza sikia mtu akisema ama amwagilie kitanda chako maji wakati huko deliberate, ili jioni akwambie akuinvite. Unaweza usitaabika sana, unaweza kuja huku kwangu. Okay? Isikia mtu kama huyu ana invite watu, mlale na yeye, you need to be very careful. That night you need to close only one eye. Na ingine iwe ni yes. Okay? So that is how we have got people being abused, and we need to be careful. We need to be alert that these things are happening. So I don't know how far we can go, but let's just continue. So we have an association we call the Global Action for Transgenderism Equality. Global Action for Transgenderism Equality. And it has its roots also in Kenya. And it is advancing the rights for people who have chosen to be extra-binary, meaning you want to be another gender apart from the male and female gender. Okay? And these organizations have followings. They have members. So we have evidence, even in this country, of people who belong to that organization. So it is good that we alert to what is happening so that we are careful. Even when you go to seek for accommodation, once you are alert to such scenarios, you can take care of yourself. I told you that in US, we have a case where on a school trip, a boy whose gender was declared as female. So that is a legal declaration. Biologically, he is male. Was given accommodation together with girls on a school trip. And he was accommodated in the same dormitory. So overnight or during the night, you start behaving like a boy. Now, if you're the parent of girls and the law is not on your side, because this boy is supposed to be given accommodation according to the declared gender, would you be comfortable if your daughter was in a school where we have a group of boys whose declared gender is female? You will not feel secure. Okay? So this is where you'd be making frequent phone calls to ask whether your daughter is. So there is something that tells you that all is not well. But you see, that one is taken as the way of life and is being accepted in the US. Okay? And it's going to come to Kenya, by the way. Yeah. It started with the approval by the court. So it is developing slowly. It is going to pick up in Kenya. And you find people declaring their genders, yet they are biologically of the opposite gender. Sasa. Okay, thank you. I think we can stop there. Let's accommodate questions so that we can address any concerns in the remaining time. Yes, we have a question there. Oh, vasectomy. He's asking how vasectomy is done. Okay? It's just cutting of the vas deferens. Just snipping it so that it's separate from one another. So you know that it's the one that carries the sperm. Yeah. Do you have an intention of having vasectomy? Adi? Is it? Yes. Yes, it's permanent. So if you decide it's for life, okay? So you should decide when you have the required number of children. Yeah, and I think you should have asked, is it safe? Yes, it is safe. And it's better. I would prefer you do it than your wife to take those drugs that will end up harming her. Huh? Sorry, ask. Yes. Huh? Uh, the implants. So you're asking what we call the implants. Yeah, we have the two types. We have one that goes for 3 years, another that goes for 5 years. Okay, why do you want to know? We have one we call the no plant, another one we call the Jadel. Mbona umeuliza? Oh, kuuliza. Kujua. Yes, we have a question there. What is that? Yes, drug abuse. Yes. Uh-huh. Exactly. You know, addiction can be reversed. Okay? And when you reverse addiction, when you're able to overcome addiction, it is accompanied by restoration of health. So all those areas that were affected by the drug, they start to recover. You regenerate, you restore yourself, and you become healthy again. So this would mean even if you had a challenge with infertility, you start gaining your fertility back. Yeah, it's reversible. Yes. Mm. Foods. Yes, especially those ones rich in zinc and selenium and boron. Okay. So they recommend especially root-based or root tubers, growing in organic soils, soils that have not been depleted and have not been disturbed by the modern fertilizers. So where you can get foods rich in zinc, in cassava, in beetroots, in turnips, okay, in yakon. You know yakon? Okay. Zinc is also contained in garlic. That's yeah, garlic has a lot of zinc. Okay. And then you can use things that contain omega-3 fatty acids. For example, flax seeds, chia seeds, okay, sea moss. Sea moss, it's harvested from the sea. Okay. Sea salt is also good for sourcing those nutrients. So, but the most important advice I can give you, yes, you're going to have these sources, and you're going to use them. But if you have not minimized on the frequency of sex, it's all useless. That's yeah. Because this is how you are losing. And there's a myth that goes on. There are people who say that if you don't have sex, you're going to have problems. So you will unasikia watu wakisema hivi. That is not true. Okay? That is not true. In fact, you have better health. Your health improves. Huh? Pana. Those are myths. Any other question? If somebody is that means yes, you increase your lifespan. The only problem is that you're not going to have a generation. But as for you, you'll be healthy. You'll be healthy. In fact, all people will go and they will leave you here. Okay? So these issues of diabetes, whatever, you don't have them. Any other question? Yes. Artificial insemination. Is it possible in? Yes, it's being done. Okay? But it's done more properly. Sio kama ile ya ng'ombe. Sasa. So your sperm has to be harvested, the egg has to be harvested, sasa. And they are fertilized externally before they are taken back. There's nothing like a test tube baby. The issue of the idea of test tube is a 2 to 3 day fertilization in the test tube. Okay? But then it has to be transplanted into the uterus. So that baby grows in the uterus, not in the test tube. That is what I want you to know. That where we talk of test tube is those 2 to 3 days where the egg and the sperm are being fertilized. So when the baby is delivered, there is nothing of the test tube in that baby. He is delivered from. If the sperms are harvested, you know, the purpose of the sexual intercourse is to deposit the sperm. Nothing else. Yes, those all. To girls. So you see, he is asking a very good question. That you've been getting baby girls, you are a man who is healthy, and you have a wife who is healthy, but you've been getting baby girls, and you want to get a baby boy. What should you do? Let me tell you, getting a baby boy requires planning, intelligence, and very good timing. Are we together? Very good timing. So, including abstaining from sex when you intend to get a baby boy. Abstaining from sex for more than 70 days. Here we are discussing science. Okay? We are discussing science here. We are looking at the facts of science. And the reason behind that is what will give you a baby boy, the seed that will give you the baby boy, is weaker. So, for it to fertilize, it requires many of them. Are we together? Then the other thing is, if the one that contains, if the sperm that contains the Y and the sperm that contains the X were to be released at the same time, the X has more chances of surviving than the Y because the Y is small. So it means, because sperms can last up to 3 days, The one that carries the Y will die in case you have sex 3 days before ovulation. It will die before the X because the X has more energy, is going to endure. So, but the good thing about the Y, it has more speed. So if you are to do very good timing on the day of ovulation, okay, and what we are saying, you have quality and quantity. So there are no blanks. Most likely, the Y will survive because of the speed. And because there are many of them, if you have many Ys, and this will depend on how much time you have waited for that event, then they are likely, you know, the sperms that go to the egg, it is not only one sperm that goes to the egg. Many go, and they make the shell of the egg to be softer. But then the one that penetrates is not the energetic. That's how. I think it's luck. That's how. But many sperms have to break that shell. Whichever enters first becomes the fertilizing sperm. So we are saying that if you have sex many times and then ovulation happens, most likely what you're going to deliver or to deposit is it's an X, because X will survive. X is hardy. It will survive. So timing is also important. The other thing is, because of getting as many sperms as possible, you have to eat for that time. Then your nutrition is also going to matter. So whatever we are talking of, the sources of boron, selenium, zinc, all those minerals, your nutrition has to be very good. And it is said that as you nourish your body, you're also nourishing those sperms. So good nutrition. Then avoid anything that can suppress or depress your seed. For example, drugs, alcohol, all those things. Okay. Then you have to make sure that you don't have sex at night. Okay. You have it in the morning. Why? When the levels of testosterone are high. Are we together? When the levels of testosterone are high. So you are taking advantage, you're using science to take advantage of your body and have the best outcome. I hope umeelewa. Yeah. And sex has to be done on the day of ovulation, not before. And an ovum has only 24 hours and it dies. That's all. So you have to work with your wife so that you can know the time of ovulation. Yes? Yes, question? Sorry? Yes, they are there. You know, the good thing about medicine, it's covered a lot when it comes to those research. There's nothing unethical about getting a surrogate, and that is why the law is for it. It's allowed. Only that it's very expensive. And sometimes people try, and it fails in the first time. And you have paid close to 700,000. I don't know how much today it is, but it's somewhere between 700 to 800,000. That is one attempt. So if it fails in the first attempt, you still have to pay another 700,000 the second attempt. So that is why the price is prohibitive. People do not. So ukifanya harambee, ufanye the first attempt, alafu ikwame. Huh? By the time you get another fundraiser. Sorry? Yes. By the way, do not confuse menstruation with ovulation. Sasa. It doesn't mean if you're menstruating, you're ovulating. That should be understood. But in normal circumstances, menstruation will come after ovulation. So it is expected that if there was no fertilization, the wall of the uterus that had grown, it has to be shed. So we call them tears of a disappointed uterus. What's up? Yes. 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 Exactly. So those are the added advantages of having you here, isn't it? You can learn from one another. That's amazing. I hope hatujafungia swali lingine. Wonderful. Then we can rise up and have the closing.